Ethan Ward arrived at the frontier market in the late afternoon, just as the sun cast long shadows across the dusty ground. He had come only for supplies, some rope, flour, and medicine for one of his older horses. He liked to finish his shopping quickly and return to the quiet of his ranch. He was not a man who enjoyed crowds or noise, and the market always felt too loud for him. Voices rose from every direction. People bargained for goods, horses whinnied, and wagons creaked as they rolled through the uneven dirt. Ethan usually ignored everything and kept his mind focused on the list in his pocket. But today, something made him stop walking. He heard a voice not loud, but strong enough to cut through the noise. It came from the center of the market, where a group of captured Apache women stood with guards watching over them. Ethan never liked seeing that area. It always made him feel uncomfortable, like something was wrong. But this time, he found himself turning to look. That was when he saw her. Naya stood among the other women, yet she looked different. Even in rough clothes and with dust covering her feet, she carried herself with calm pride. Her long, dark hair hung loosely, and the breeze lifted small strands away from her face. Her eyes were sharp and filled with a quiet strength. She did not tremble like some of the others, and she did not bow her head. Instead, she looked at the people around her as if she was trying to understand them. Ethan felt a strange pull in his chest, like something had shifted inside him. He had never believed in moments where life suddenly changed, but the way she stood there made him pause for the first time in years. He kept watching her without realizing he was staring. Naya noticed him too. For a moment, their eyes met. He expected her to look away quickly, but she didn't. Instead, she stepped forward. The guards looked surprised, but she ignored them. She kept walking until she stood right at the front of the group, facing Ethan directly. Then she spoke in a clear, steady voice that carried across the open space. "Buy me, cowboy." The entire market seemed to freeze. Even the noise around them softened as people turned to stare. Ethan felt his breath catch in his throat. He had never heard anything like that before. A woman in her situation choosing someone. It was unusual, almost shocking. He looked around, expecting someone to laugh or accuse him of something. But instead, everyone just stared silently. The guards frowned, confused about what to do. Ethan looked back at Naya. Her eyes stayed on him. She didn't blink or look uncertain. She looked like she had chosen him. On purpose. Ethan didn't know what to say. He was not the kind of man who took advantage of anyone. He hated the idea of people being treated like property. Buying a person was something he had never imagined himself doing, but he also knew the truth. If he walked away, someone else, someone dangerous or cruel, might step forward. He remembered the stories he had heard. Some men treated slaves like animals. Some separated families. Some used fear to control them. Ethan felt a tightness in his chest as he looked at Naya. She did not beg. She did not look scared. She looked like someone who was trying to save herself in the only way she could. Naya's voice was calm when she repeated her request. "Buy me." Ethan swallowed hard. His mind raced. He wasn't rich. Ranch work gave enough to live on, but not much extra. Still, he felt something deep inside telling him that walking away would be wrong. He felt responsible now, not because she asked him, but because her eyes told him she trusted him. Somehow, without speaking more than 2 words to him, she had placed her safety in his hands. He finally stepped forward. "How much?" he asked in a quiet voice. The guard named Cole looked surprised. "You? You sure about that?" Ethan nodded. He didn't explain his reasons because he barely understood them himself. He only knew he couldn't leave her there. Cole named the price, and Ethan felt his stomach twist. It was more than he planned to spend that month, but he reached for the small leather pouch at his belt anyway. He counted the coins with steady hands, even though his heart was beating fast. When he handed over the money, the guard shrugged and loosened the rope around Naya's wrists. She stepped out from the group, walking toward Ethan, slowly but confidently. People whispered around them, wondering why she had chosen him and why he agreed. Ethan didn't touch her or pull her. He simply nodded toward his horse and walked beside her. "I'll help you up," he said softly. She nodded once. When their hands met for the first time, Ethan felt a warm, surprising calmness wash through him. He lifted her onto the horse gently, making sure she sat comfortably. Then he climbed up behind her, keeping enough distance so she didn't feel crowded. As they rode away from the market, Ethan could feel the eyes of the whole town on them. He ignored them and focused on the road. The air grew cooler as they left the noise behind and entered the quiet countryside. Naya didn't speak for a long time. She sat straight, watching the hills and open land with curious eyes. She did not look frightened or lost. Instead, she looked thoughtful, almost relieved. Ethan finally gathered the courage to speak. "I want you to know. I didn't buy you to own you. You're not my property." Naya turned her head slightly so she could hear him. Her voice was soft and calm. "I know." Her answer surprised him. "You do?" "Yes," she said. "I chose you." Ethan didn't know how to respond. The idea that she had chosen him still felt unreal. "Why?" he finally asked. She looked forward again, her eyes steady on the horizon. "You looked different from the others," she said quietly. "You looked safe." Ethan felt something shift inside him again. A warm, unfamiliar feeling spread through his chest. He wasn't used to people noticing him. He lived alone, worked hard, and didn't look for trouble. But this woman, this brave, beautiful woman, had looked at him and seen something important. The road to the ranch was long, but Ethan wished it was longer. He found himself wanting to understand her more. He wanted to know her story, her fears, her hopes, yet he didn't want to push her or make her uncomfortable. When they reached the ranch, the sky had turned a warm orange. Ethan helped her down from the horse. She stepped onto the ground lightly, like she was adjusting to freedom one moment at a time. He led her toward the house and opened the door for her. "You can take this room," he said, pointing to a clean guest room. "There's fresh water in the basin, and if you're hungry, I'll make something warm." Naya looked around the room slowly, touching the wooden frame of the bed and the small table beside it. It was simple, but compared to where she had been, it felt safe and peaceful. She looked at Ethan and gave him a small nod. "Thank you." Her voice was calm, but the two words felt heavy with meaning. Ethan felt his pulse quicken, not from fear, but from something new, something gentle. That night, as Naya sat on the bed and listened to the quiet sounds of the ranch, she finally let her shoulders relax. For the first time since she was taken, she felt like she could breathe. And in the other room, Ethan lay awake thinking about her courage, about the moment she stepped forward and spoke those shocking words, about why she chose him out of everyone in that crowded market. Neither of them knew how their lives would change next, but both of them felt something honest and strong, growing silently between them. Something that began the moment she said, "By me, cowboy," and he decided to walk toward her, instead of away. From the moment Naya stepped into Ethan's ranch house, something inside her slowly changed. She had lived in fear for many days, but now, she finally felt a place where she could rest without constantly watching the door. She slept deeply that first night, the kind of sleep she hadn't felt since she was taken from her people. The soft creak of the wooden house, the quiet wind outside, and the distant sound of horses moving in the barn gave her a calm she thought she would never experience again. Ethan woke early, as he always did, to start work on the ranch. He moved quietly so he wouldn't disturb her. He wasn't used to having someone else in the house. Everything felt different, but in a way he didn't mind. He made breakfast eggs, bread, and warm coffee, but he didn't knock on her door. He decided she needed rest more than anything. Naya woke with the sunlight touching her face. When she stepped out of the room, Ethan looked up from the table. She looked refreshed, though still cautious. He offered her a plate of food, and she accepted it politely. Ethan noticed her studying him, and he felt strangely nervous, a feeling he wasn't used to. After breakfast, Naya asked if she could help with the chores. Ethan told her she didn't have to work, but she shook her head. "Doing nothing makes the mind tired," she said softly. He respected her words and agreed to let her help. She followed him to the barn, and to his surprise, she handled the animals with ease. She fed the horses gently, stroked their necks, and whispered calming sounds to them. The horses responded to her with trust. "You've done this before," Ethan said, watching her curiously. "My people live close to the land," she replied. "Animals listen when we treat them with respect." Ethan admired the way she moved, calm, patient, and steady. She worked without complaint, and even though she didn't smile often, her face showed quiet peace. As the hours passed, they found a natural rhythm working side by side. They didn't talk much, but they didn't need to. The silence between them felt comfortable. During the afternoon, Ethan noticed her expression change. She paused while carrying a bucket, looking toward the hills beyond the ranch. "Is something wrong?" he asked gently. She hesitated before speaking. "I am thinking about the children I was protecting when I was taken." Her voice grew soft. "I hope they are safe." Ethan listened carefully. He wanted to understand her story, but he didn't want to push her. She appreciated that he didn't force questions onto her. Slowly, she continued on her own. "I put myself between them and the men," she said. "The children ran, and I stayed so they would not be chased." Ethan felt his chest tighten with respect. She had risked everything for others. Her bravery was greater than anything he had seen. "You protected them," he said. "That was incredibly brave." Her eyes softened. "Sometimes we do not choose bravery. Life pushes us into it." Ethan nodded, understanding more than she expected. He knew what it felt like to face hard truths alone. Days passed, and Naya's presence changed the ranch. She repaired broken fences, planted herbs behind the house, and filled the rooms with quiet, calm. Ethan found himself looking forward to seeing her each morning. Even the simplest moments, her handing him tools, him offering her water, felt meaningful. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Ethan noticed Naya standing by the porch, staring at the land with a thoughtful expression. He walked over slowly so he wouldn't startle her. "You're quiet today," he said gently. She glanced at him. "I am thinking about why I asked you to buy me," she said. Ethan felt a strange flutter in his chest. He had wondered about that moment every night. "I've wanted to ask," he replied, "but I didn't want to bring back bad memories." Naya appreciated his kindness. She took a deep breath and spoke in a calm, steady voice. "You looked safe," she said. "When I saw you, I felt something I had not felt for many days. I felt hope." Ethan looked at her with surprise. "But you didn't know me." "No," she said softly. "But sometimes we recognize a kind heart before we know the person." Ethan didn't know what to say. Her words touched something deep inside him, something he didn't know he needed to hear. He felt honored, almost humbled, that she trusted him so deeply. He wanted to say something meaningful. But before he could speak, they heard the sound of horses approaching. Ethan immediately became alert. He stepped slightly in front of Naya, his body tense. Two men rode toward the ranch, kicking up dust. Ethan recognized them instantly. They were part of the group that often dealt with captured people in town. He didn't like them. They were known for rough behavior and cruel attitudes. The men stopped near the fence and called out, "We're looking for one of our slaves. Heard she might be here." Ethan didn't move. Naya stayed behind him, her heart pounding, but she trusted him. The men sneered. "Word is the Apache girl ran off. Last seen with some cowboy at the market." "That you?" Ethan's jaw tightened. He didn't like trouble, but he liked injustice even less. I bought her. She's not yours anymore. The men exchanged glances. Maybe you should hand her over. She's worth good money, and we don't like losing property. Ethan stepped forward, blocking the view inside the yard. His voice turned calm, but powerful. She is not property, he said, and you're not taking her. The men didn't expect such a firm response. They muttered under their breath, glared at him, and finally turned their horses around. This ain't over, one of them said before riding off. Ethan watched until they disappeared over the hill. Only then did he turn back to Naya. She looked shaken, but she wasn't crying. Her eyes were full of emotion, fear, mixed with deep relief. He walked toward her slowly. "You're safe here," he said softly. "No one will take you away." Ah, 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 ah. Naya looked at him with gratitude that words couldn't express. She placed a hand on her chest, feeling her heartbeat settle. "You protected me," she whispered. Ethan shook his head. Anyone would have done that. Naya stepped closer, her voice steady. "No," she said. "Not anyone. You." Ethan felt warmth spread through him, deeper than anything he had felt in years. It wasn't dramatic or sudden. It was gentle, honest, and strong. From that night on, something changed between them. Their bond grew firmer, like a silent agreement that neither had spoken but both understood. Naya began to feel more at home, not as someone hiding but as someone building a new life. She planted seeds in the garden, telling Ethan they would grow strong if cared for with patience, much like people. Ethan found himself watching her more, admiring her strength and kindness. He helped her learn small tasks she hadn't done before, and she taught him things from her culture, how to read the wind, how to calm a frightened animal, and how to listen to silence. Slowly, without either of them pushing it, closeness formed. One evening, while watching the sunset together, Naya spoke softly. "When I asked you to buy me, I wasn't looking for an owner. I was looking for a future." Ethan looked at her with gentle surprise. "And did you find one?" She turned toward him, her expression sincere. "Yes," she whispered. "I found it here." Ethan didn't answer right away. He simply stood beside her as the evening light wrapped around them. The story of their lives had started in a crowded, noisy market with 4 simple words. But now, on the quiet ranch, their future felt peaceful, steady, and full of possibilities neither of them expected. And in that moment, both of them realized that the choice Naya made and the decision Ethan followed had changed their lives forever.